Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave.
Welcome back, everybody. Once again, it is the end of the season, and of course, all of the grand finals are going down, especially this special one here today in the EU-PC Open, where the grand finals, we will have Grillmasters versus EU, and it should be an absolute banger today, as I am joined by Mega Glass. And first of all, how are you doing, and how excited are you for this grand finals matchup here today?
I'm honestly super looking forward to it because it is going to be an interesting match, Looking back, this is going to be a rematch of our winners grand final from the upper bracket, and there was a bit of an asterisk on that match, right? There's some behind-the-scenes stuff with EU. They misread the time on the match, so despite it being a 3-0, maybe there's a bit of an asterisk of EU wasn't really ready or prepared for it. So maybe going into it this time around, they can definitely show us a bit more in the tank, because this is grand finals, this is where you decide if you're winning or losing.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, they clearly made it to those upper finals in the first place, so clearly they do have a lot to show for it. But Grillmasters, they've just been an absolute unit this year. They have yet to lose a regular season matchup. They make their way through the grand finals, only dropping 2 maps in the process as well. That's nearly unheard of. I know we've had some dominant teams so far this season, but this has to be one of the most dominant performances we have seen thus far within this season 12, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they've been absolutely killing it, and they've been doing it in a variety of different ways. Obviously they have meta comps and stuff they can pull out, but we've seen a lot of different stuff come throughout this bracket. I believe in that winners bracket match, or the winner final match, if I can recall properly, they were playing a lot of Wrecking Ball, believe it or not, and were just getting insane value. But if we are actually going to go ahead and start looking at these lineups here at Grillmaster, they've got some powerful people, Hunter.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, Will, you can kind of see them over there on the far, but of course, Siesta with them as well. Ice Dome going to be over on the tank. Yoham and Strybor going to be over on the support line to start things out for Grillmasters. And this is definitely one heck of a lineup. But of course, we would be remiss not to look at their opponents here today as well, which is going to be Ya.EU. Here to see over there Chronic and Ame over on the DPS line. Strider going to be rocking that tank, and Deco Avertings over on the support lineup. I mean, just with both of these teams have been through so far, has been just excellence this entire season, and I'm really looking forward to this engagement between them. So I think the main thing you have to consider is momentum, in a sense. Like Grillmasters, obviously the momentum is entirely on their side. The upper side of these grand finals, will also have the very first map pick. Meanwhile, we have Ya.EU, who barely managed to make their way in there, so now you have to wonder if that momentum is going to play any sort of factor here today.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's almost two different stories. If you're a Grillmasters, you want to feed into that momentum. You want to realize we've coasted through the regular season. We coasted through the bracket. We've got no real opposition. You want to ride that momentum. Whereas Ya.EU, of course, they're going to want to be the ones to sort of upset it, break the stability that Grillmasters have. And I think if you're going to do it anywhere, it's going to have to be on map 1, right? Because that's going to be Grillmasters' pick here as we are looking to Lijiang Tower, who is surprised for our control map. Lijiang Tower, always a favorite amongst everybody, but that is an advantage towards Ya.EU. I feel that everybody picks this map, right? So there's no clear Grillmasters, having some sort of set scheme or plan in motion. This is just they're going to try to raw play against you, right? And if you want to try to take mirror, you want to try to do some sort of crazy meta comp or anything like that, you definitely have the ability to sort of upset them here and stop any and all momentum in its tracks.
Exactly, and I feel like Control in general, but I think Lijiang specifically, is a great map to be the pace setter. Like, this is normally where we see teams pull out their medal, see what they end up being most comfortable on, because especially when we go in and start on a map like Gardens, you have a big variety here of what you want to try to play. You could just TP directly to the point and play a hard brawl style, fires up into the air with like a Aura or an Echo, or you could run something else. You could run a Doomfist, you could run a Ball, you could run anything on Gardens. So I'm really excited what these teams are going to be pulling out in that first fight, as we are going to make sure everything is up to snuff before we truly get into this matchup.
Yeah, European tournament probably deserves to be on European servers. I think that's a logical foregone conclusion. But yeah, as you said, Lijiang Tower, it kind of lends itself to a lot of different compositions as we go throughout the rounds, as well as these teams, right? Ya.EU, they've been very meta dependent, I would say. They've liked to play that Sigma with the Baptiste, and it's just because of the crazy sustain that you give the Sigma in that situation. And if you have somebody like Strider who can rock it really well, I mean, there's no reason to not give that sustain, right? It's just constantly, you're putting out damage, potentially putting out huge stuns with the accretions. It's something that you can rely on very heavily through a variety of situations and comps. But, I mean, on the other side, Grillmasters, they like to get silly. So this is something that is going to be a wrench, a curveball for most teams. And Ya.EU, they're going to have to be the ones to step up to the plate.
Yeah, they're definitely in that position against a team that has not lost a match thus far. And I think when a team carries that momentum, it's weird to say that I think that kind of thing gets overlooked, because when you get to the grand finals, a lot of that stature, a lot of that record just kind of goes down the drain, because all that it's about is the maps that are happening there in front of you. So Ya.EU does have a lot to prove here today, and they're going to be going up against the juggernaut of the UPC, in all honesty.
I mean, yeah, but, sure, it may look like a David versus Goliath on paper, but the reason we know of David versus Goliath is because, the sling was fired, Goliath was taken down by the weaker person on paper. So it's something to absolutely look forward to as we're getting a peek into the spawn rooms to see what these teams want to show off here on the night market. And it looks like Ya.EU's, they're going to rock out with that Sigma comp, nothing too crazy. Grillmasters hovering the Rhine with the Sim. This is going to be a strat where you want to get into point super quickly, TP in through that nice little ledge, and then just sort of hold point presence with that hammer, as well as combo it with the Maywalls.
Yeah, and the big thing about this is, well, now that Ame is going to go over to the Symmetra, we are going to see both teams likely just TP directly up into the point as well. So this first fight is going to just happen instantaneously. The moment these TP set up, they're just going to run into each other. As actually, we're seeing Yaiu kind of hold on to it. They realize they don't want to be in that situation, so they instead, bring Ame over to that Genji, and they're just going to kind of be playing, poking around the outside for the time being. Not a big priority to get to the point quite yet. You kind of want to send in Ame and Chronic over here, over on the sides here in a second to open things up, as you can see Ame just poking and prodding away over at Siesta, trying to make something happen. But for the time being, the TP going to send them back a little bit. It opens up the ability to start working their way through the point as Ice just trying to make sure they secure that initial point opening. They eventually have to be forced off, and this point going to open up out the gate for Grillmasters, as right now Ice just getting drilled into to the point where you have to use a TP just to be able to get out and now stay alive. And this fight's taken a very long time, but that's exactly what Yaiu has to do right now. Grillmasters wants a quicker fight, but Yaiu is going to get so much more value once they take all these different positions. But still, nobody gone quite yet. The window eventually going to get rid of Strider, but Will going to be taken out directly after the fact. So this fight going to even directly back up, but it's Siesta, who's now found two of their own. Going to shut down that fight, and now Ame just has to try to escape with their life.
Yeah, and it looks like it might just be the pit of destruction there for the Genji. And yeah, you kind of touched on it there. Yaiu, they want to play very slow. They want to take angles. They want to be able to kind of set themselves up for the perfect fight. Whereas Grillmasters, they want to be fast. They want to be in your face constantly. And they're playing it really, really well here, knowing that measured aggression, using the amplification matrix to their advantage. But looking forward to this next fight here, Yaiu, if they can extend this out just a little bit, they're going to have a lot of ultimates online to work with.
Yep, 100% as we're going to see them come online. You see that window from Deco going to go out kind of early on the sideline. And it's the fact they're just trying to run them down, and Siesta going to get that first pick onto Ame, and now that Rock over on the side Strider. And just a really tough situation, and likely just not going to be able to survive. The Shadow is just going to come down directly onto them. The wall does cut it off for the moment, but if they find any more late picks, it's going to be incredibly tough for Yaiu to be able to make it back to this point, as they're going to kill Deco super late as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you go for that stagger because you realize it, and they get averting. That might actually be a sort of nail in the coffin here for the round. And what's really impressive with Grillmasters, they held this defense by only using two ultimates. One of them already built back up, being Yoham's amplification matrix. So they're going to have enough to answer what Yaiu wants to throw at them for this final fight.
Yep. Now they're going to get that last-minute touch to set up the overtime. So now they have a good amount of time to work with, but you have to make these ultimates work as well. You might have to just pull out either the overclock or the blade just to be able to get that beat out, because that is going to be your biggest flux right now, as we're going to see that come out. Got to catch a couple of people, but nobody taken down, as they're going to be slashing away, the beat going to be forced out, and now the free is catching on to three different members. They're going to be sent off the side, and while we do see the point flip come through, I mean, you've got rid of Averting, you've gotten rid of Strider. It's going to be near impossible to pull us back, as Chronic couldn't make anything happen with that overclock. And now, point can be flipping back to the control of Grillmasters, and Yaiu likely not going to be able to commit another touch here, as Averting's just going to make it, stall it out for an extra 5 seconds. Cool. But unfortunately, a nice little victory shatters. Grillmasters will take round one.
And they take it in a pretty decisive manner on this sort of Rhine comp. And Yaiu, when we see variations of this Sigma comp, right, the main thing that you might notice is the Mei, right? It's something that puts out a lot of damage currently, just a very valuable thing, especially with the walls. But Ame on the Genji is such an interesting adaptation, because when it truly does work, it can absolutely win you fights single-handedly just being on that Genji hero. But there was too much sustain from the side of Grillmasters, so now Ame making the correct swap over to the Mei here. Meanwhile, Grillmasters looking like they at least want to TP out of spawn, but then we might see a Sojourn mirror after.
I don't think it will be. I think they're going to stick with the Symmetra, which means they are going to want to take the quicker fight. They're all going to go out together. Meanwhile, Yaiu, he's going to have to play this with a bit of an angle with Chronic. So we're seeing Grillmasters just get very aggressive here as well. They do not want to give Ya the opportunity to be able to set up and take all these off angles. So the pin going to come through, and in fact, it's going to send Strider careening off the side of the cliff. Ame forced to use the ice block, but unfortunately only going to delay the inevitable, as I's going to slap them away. We barely see Chronic get out of that boot, but unfortunately going to die regardless. Grillmasters once again going to open up that point powerfully and very aggressively too.
Yeah, and you hit the nail exactly on the head once again. I mean, the Sojourn just wasn't allowed to set up, find any angles to do some damage with that railgun. Strider now going to be going over to the Ramatra, but Chronic is just taken out in the spawn from just damage. I mean, Grillmasters, they can hold this aggressively simply because there's nothing to really stop them from doing it right now until that Sojourn comes back to try to put some damage into this Rhine Shield.
I wonder what's stopping you right now from running the Symmetra, or even better, the Bastion, because with it being a Reinhardt, the one thing you need to do is simply just get rid of that shield, and Ice is going to be a sitting duck, but instead, they're going to keep that Sojourn, try to make it work, but that Shatter's online in Ice. I don't think Ice is going to hold back on this. I think the moment they have it, they're going to hit it and send that down immediately. I could feel that aggression from here as they're going to pin them over on the wall, going to turn, hit the Shatter, look at it, it's going to find 3 members, burning them away. You're going to find Striders, so that fight going to be done and over with. Ame trying to get out with their life, but unfortunately, it might be Ice that might be in a bad situation, but they are going to get out, and nobody's going to get frozen either.
Yeah, that can't happen. You can't use the Blizzard to no avail there. Now Yoham just setting up with his Amplification Matrix outside the spawn. Ooh, the fight's going.
It's still going. Siesta finds a pick onto averting, so now Ya is going to start making their way around as, Grillmasters does kind of have to abandon that front line for now, which is understandable, because now you can play defensively with that freeze, or with that Symmetra wall, so Ya, this is their last chance right here, so likely going to see the aggressive wall here in a couple of seconds, just waiting for the right opportunity to move in together as a unit of 5, as we're going to see Will over on the side, the wall going to be committed, going to send that freeze on, it's trying to catch on to with one single member, do they find him? They don't, as we see the full commitment come through, Ice going to go down first, the point not flipping over quite yet, as Strider just trying to make sure that they survive, as Will going to have to pull up that ice block just to be able to survive for as long as they possibly can, but honestly, the longer this fight goes on, the more likely that Ice is going to be able to make their way back into this fight, so they have to find another, and Steramore is definitely a good target to have, as we'll see them come through, trying to burn away at Strider, who you might have been forced to use the form, and Annihilation gonna come out as well. Honestly, despite you losing that fight, that is fantastic. You forced out the only ultimate that Ya had left, and now Ice has that Shatter locked and loaded for this next fight.
Yeah, and so it's going to kind of come down to just sort of playing tricky angles that way to minimize the value of the Shatter. It's unfortunately just not reliable for Ramatra to block that with his shield. I mean, if you can do it, it's an absolute amazing play, but it is going to have to be Ya here figuring out an answer to the Shatter, because losing one member could spell the end of this round.
Yeah, and that pin nearly finds Ame, but the slash over on this side eventually going to send the solo Shatter into Strider. There's not enough healing in the world to keep them alive for that one. And now, once again, down to Chronic and Deco. They want to try to make some kind of magic happen, but honestly, this is just a really unfortunate situation. Not even going to let them come out of that high ground. And now Grillmasters with a dominant display over there with this Reinhardt-style compass. They're going to take the first map here in the series.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about momentum, but something to go with the momentum is just the tempo, right? Mm-hmm. It was absolutely insane how fast Grillmasters was playing. Ya never really got to take a breath, figure out what was happening. It was just a matter of they were on them 24/7 with this Reinhardt, with this Mei, doing crazy amounts of work, and there just wasn't enough to weather the storm. So now Ya, they're gonna have to try to figure something out here if they want to get at least a map on the board in this series.
Yeah, and I wonder how long they're going to try and run this Sojourn style, which I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with the Sojourn style, nor do I think there's anything wrong with Chronic specifically running the Sojourn. It's just that when you're up against Grillmasters, a team that is this aggressive, that's not going to give you the time to set up the angles that you need to make that kind of Sigma Sojourn style work, you only have 2 options. And that's either 1, you're going to switch up your comp, or 2, you're going to take us to a map where the Reinhardt comp isn't going to be as good, which we'll kind of find out in a moment where they want to go. But honestly, Mega Glass, between those 2 options, which one do you think is going to end up better suiting a team like Ya?
I mean, they're very much in their ways if you've watched them throughout the bracket of this Sigma comp, right? And this Sigma comp, this is pretty much agreed upon to be the meta at this point. I would, as you said, like to see the adaptation of the Sojourn over onto the Bastion if you're up against the Rhine. But at the same time, Lijiang, it is a very small map, just like most control maps, as well as they got the 2 rounds that really lended themselves to Rhine. If we ended up going to Garden, maybe we could have seen a different story play out, but it was not in the cards. So potentially they could just try to run it back with the Sojourn style, going on to any of our hybrid maps next, there's a bit of distance that can be played, so that way you're not being run on over and over again by a Symmetra. But it'll be interesting to see, as we do have the pick come through, and it is Blizzard World of all of the maps. This is one I truly did kind of expect. I think going to King's Row with a Rhine on the loose would have been nothing less than foolish. But Sigma can play a lot of the high grounds, and it allows for that super defensive style that YaEU loves to run.
Yeah, I think this is 100% the best map pick they could have brought through. And it does offer a lot more high ground, so while you still kind of can get around on the Rhine and the Symmetra, as, you know, we've seen this comp be used by a nice little London team in the past. It's very popular and very efficient for those reasons, but again, this is the best map pick we could have seen from YaEU, but they still have to be able to get through that initial attack, because that first point can be very hard to break through because there are a lot of high grounds to work with. Grillmasters should be able to rotate around efficiently, so YaEU is just going to be able to try to set up properly, but Grillmasters, they've already proven they can stop the setup from happening, so what's to stop them from doing it again?
I mean, yeah, most definitely. And it truly comes down to, it's not even just that the comp is like necessarily better or anything crazy like that, right? It's just a matter of Grillmasters, they were able to play at such a fast pace that there really was no answer. And it's because there wasn't, you know, too much distance to ever cover, right? A definite way that could be adapted upon is you could look towards your Lucio if you're running that Sigma comp and just try to speed disengage anytime the Rhine wants to run at you. But no Reinhardt in play here. We're going to see a bit of a switch up. Grillmasters on the defense, bowing to the meta onto the Sigma comp themselves, whereas YaEU, they're getting a little bit frisky with it. They might just be in the spawn room, but the Wrecking Ball to try to do some disruption could be a bit of a curveball.
It's definitely a possibility, and obviously Chronic likely not going to be sticking on this Widow, likely just going to take the one shot, potentially just send up into the air. Going to see if they can find somebody, going to peek, and going to find nobody. So, going to head back into the room, likely heading over to a Sojourn again. So, Chronic going to rock the Sojourn. Grillmasters waiting in that little burrow right there. So, now YaEU knows where they're at. They're to send somebody back to pressure the point, and I'm pretty sure that was Strider who went all the way back there. So, now that does open things up for this YaEU team, so going to be able to take over that high ground for free. But still, that's only step one. You have to be able to get into this fight and find somebody to target, because, I mean, look at Grillmasters right now. They're not separating at all. You have Thor on the point, you have Yoham on the top, just to make sure that you can secure anything if something goes down, and that's who they're going to pressure first, is Yoham over on the side. Yoham, though, going to survive for the time being, is Ame going to get pressured big time by Will, but that's a nice knockaway from Strider to be able to make sure Ame stays in the fight. And now those sticky bombs going to get close to taking Siesta down, but we do see the immortality going to get used, but it's going to be a Verdings that's going to be going down first. A nice little trade out getting rid of Yoham, but again, Siesta finds a 2k of their own. Strider trying to make sure they can do their best to survive on the point, but so incredibly low right now as we see a Verdings try to dump into them to get those heals, but with Ame going down, YaEU just going to have to take the reset.
Yeah, and Grillmasters, they're showing, you know, the power of the Sigma comp, right? The longer a fight goes on, the more sustain they have, the more they can weather the storm and just eventually find what they need to, and it worked out for them there, but this is going to be the crucial thing. Strider on the ball is just a nuisance, and if you play the ball correctly, that's exactly what you have to do. Just be a nuisance 24/7 to give your team the opening they need.
Yeah, I think of Wrecking Ball a lot like taxes. They're very annoying, but you can do them, so you can make it work. So you are going to see them kind of just flow around. Ame, once again, though, in a scenario where they're extremely low, going to be kept up by Deco and averting to right now are nice and playing safe over there. A little split up, but they should be able to take care of each other if push comes to shove. But it's ice right now with this Gravitic Flux ready to go, and Ame going to go with that copy onto the Sigma. And now they're going to treat this as an opportunity to try to push people, but Strider going to find a straight bar to start out this fight. And now this is an opportunity for YaEU to finally take a fight as they end up missing that one. Still, Averting's going to use the rally just to try to survive, and in fact, they're going to double down, use the freeze on Avertings, and they're not even going to get them either. And with that pick over onto Yoham, I think YaEU going to be able to come away the winners of this fight. And with just ice over there on the high ground, I imagine they're just going to retreat, and YaEU should be able to claim this first point.
Yes, indeed. I don't think there's going to be any stall touches from Grillmasters here. As they do make a slight adaptation over to the Bastion instead of that May, so potentially just giving up the Blizzard. And I don't necessarily hate that idea, right? May works when a team is grouped up very well and you can get on them constantly. But YaEU, their composition, it lends to people being everywhere, kind of all spread out as, an aggressive engage.
Yeah, very aggressive, especially when Deco went down like just as that beat was going down. So with you being this close, Deco is going to be able to get back quickly. So if you're going to commit, you have to make sure you're going to get everybody, and Chronic definitely a good place to start. So you are going to manage to shut down YaEU, force them back into the spawn rooms, but I don't know. This is a really close hold. I wonder how long they're going to be able to make this work for.
Yeah, but I mean, late picks like that onto the Echo, I mean, that's what makes this close hold more and more valuable, and more of that time that gets drained, all of a sudden that sound barrier goes from a crazy investment to something that was absolutely genius, as we're seeing the Doomfist now from Strider, just trying to dislodge from this high ground, immediately having to run away. I don't know if the Doomfist is going to be the answer they're looking for.
I think it is the answer that knocked him off the high ground, but I imagine Strider's not going to be in this lane for very long of the Doomfist. I mean, at this point, I think you've kind of put yourself in the situation where you realize you're not going to be able to rock the Sigma to the same value. And unfortunately, Chronic going to go down first again in this engagement. You can kind of see Siesta just kind of sniping away at these DPS, trying to get them. As Strider going to have to use the ult, which, by the way, they already have the ultimate. That's rather incredible. It's going to come down, manage to find Siesta, so that is the first step you're going to need to unlocking this point and putting yourself in a situation. But Ame, in such a desperate situation that they're going to have to try and make something happen on this copy, and when you're going to bring two up like that, there's no immortality field to save Chronic, so now it's just the supports, Deco and Avertings, try to help each other stay up, and at the end of the day, it looks like it is going to pay off, with Straybor trying to make their way out of their stall for as long as they can, actually. So YaEU eventually win, but Grillmasters took off a lot of time with that stall.
Yes, indeed. Grillmasters opting in for the strategy of making YaEU pay for every inch in blood, quite literally having to just win a team fight. It feels like almost every turn, every corner. It puts so much pressure onto YaEU when a team is playing this aggressively. Even on a defensive comp, they're just setting an insane tempo.
Yeah, exactly, as we get back into this engagement. Right now, YaEU is managing to make sure to keep that push going for the time being. Will does have the opportunity to dislodge people when they want to, but we're actually see the wall engagement, and they're going to try to go after Avertings and Deco, but we're going to see the commitment of the beat, and that beat is the very reason that we're able to see this Mortar Strike come out from Will, and with Ame going down, going to shut down a lot of the DPS. Chronic does have the opportunity to pull out that overclock if they want to, but I think your best case is to try to get out of here with your lives, as they're actually going to invest the Nano onto Strider, but Strider's taking so much damage that not even the Nano can save them, and Chronic's trying to go nuts in the room, but only taking Will down with them, as YaEU invests multiple ultimates into a losing fight.
Yeah, and it feels very perplexing, right? Grillmasters, again, they're on this sort of defensive comp that likes to be slow, take its time, but they just have their foot on the gas at all times with this Symmetra added into the mix. In YaEU, they're kind of struggling to find an answer, right? Their supports can't really feel too safe at all times. They're constantly having to peel for each other, and it means that your front line's not getting the healing it needs to be able to sustain through what the rest of Grillmasters wants to do.
Exactly. Going to be coming up on final fight territory, as they're going to start getting a little bit of aggression there and there, but you can't really peek against that. You're just going to have to try to keep either Strider or your support lineup sitting on it, as you do have to make sure you get that final touch, and they will achieve it. So overtime going to clock in, as they're going to get mega aggressive. The Flux going to come online, catching on to both supports, and they're deleted like a hot knife going through butter. And now it's down to Ame with that copy. Gotta find somebody and bring it out, as Strider going to be taken down. Ame eventually going to copy onto the Bastion, but it's just going to be sent out of the form instantaneously. And now poor Chronic, the lone wolf standing on the point, not going to be able to make anything happen there. So Grillmasters holding them just before that second checkpoint, and honestly, that is not a very long way to go.
It's not a long way to go, but at least it is a line in the sand that can be held now for YaEU. You got the first point unlocked, and that necessarily isn't going to be a guarantee, right? Because now that you're on the defense here, you can run the Sigma comp that you're a lot more practiced on, a lot more comfortable with. Whereas Grillmasters, at this point, you can kind of figure out what they're doing, right? It's these aggressive Symmetra TPs. There's constant damage coming through, and they're trying to catch you off guard, right? So I'm anybody on the IEU. I'm looking to the support line to potentially try to call when these TPs are coming through, just so the rest of the team can disengage. But seems like instead of the Sigma comp, they're going to want to rely on this split defense here that they were doing on their offense, kind of just letting everybody play on their own little island besides the supports, keeping each other alive. If you can disrupt the engage from Grillmasters, then I'd say it will work, but the issue is your supports are going to be on an island, and if they can get to the supports, then it's just game over from there.
Yeah, I think Grillmasters figured out very quickly that the key to winning that fight was either waiting for Strider to get too aggressive or just simply committing to the backline. And both times, it would normally work out. So, honestly, a lot of this is going to come down to if Deco and Avernings can simply stay alive. Like, that's a very basic way to go about it, but as long as they can stay alive, you should be able to keep alive Chronic. Strider can still kind of move around the map as they please, so we are going to see this around rotation. They don't want to give anybody a shot to get any chip damage at them, build any of their ultimates as the TP. Going to take them over to that top left area. Strider is kind of laying in the weights as it looks like they're going to take over that initial high ground. And Strider almost preemptively going to take over this high ground and make sure that they're not going to be able to get up there for free as they're kind of peeking little by little, putting a presence on the point to start things out. Going to catch them for a moment, but it's actually Ame that's still going to go down first anyway. So now you see Strider in the back line, going to be able to trade out and get Yoham in the process. And Avernings, hey, look at that! You work together, you can kind of see that little transition over to that high ground just to ensure that everybody can stay alive. And now with Will being taken out, that ends up working out well. And Ice is also going to die a little late here in the same time. So that's actually a pretty good first fight for them.
Yeah, pretty solid fight. You had to give up a tick for it, but that's one of the downsides of Grillmasters trying to run this Sigma on the offense here is you have to take these really long rotations to try to be able to get at anybody here, and they were able to rotate rather well, but just losing Yoham was, once you lose the Baptiste, you lose all of the sustain of this comp here, as Will, again, realizing that the Mei is not going to be effective, going over to the Bastion now, just try to put in some damage, and it looks like they're just going to walk straight up.
Yep, and they're going to try to drain all that damage, and eventually Chronic going to be found not in the best position right there as Strider going to just make sure they get out of there alive, because you can solve this out. You can still give away a tick. You're not hard-pressed quite yet, and right now, honestly, Grillmasters in no hurry to put a bunch of bodies on this point either, so there is a chance Chronic can come back in, the window going to get invested, those mines going to come online, they're going to send somebody into the air, Siesta getting super low, but is going to stay alive, as Ame going to invest over on that Sigma, going to try to run down Ice to the best of their ability, trying to get the ult charge up there right now, but getting super low. They're trying to see if they can get it online, getting super low, and they're going to have that flux, going to try to bring it up, but unfortunately not going to be able to finish through on the process, but still, Will going to drop down on the point, and now we're seeing this hold coming into still right now. Ice going to have to drop off of the high ground, that pin coming through, just have to come and narrow in on one more person, make sure you keep the presence on the point, and just like that, YEU has come alive here on Blizzard World, just a minute and a half to go.
Yes, indeed. After a very long, staggered-out fight, they are able to come away with it. They did have to invest pretty heavily, but they've kind of been able to build their ult bank back slightly. They're going to have the rally online for whenever this next engage comes through, but Chronic has been a bit of a struggle on the Sojourn. Just with the way Grillmasters is playing, that's who you're going to be looking to be the hero for this next fight.
Yeah, I imagine they're going to come out and TP directly onto that high ground behind them. Just going to have make sure it's ready. As we're going to see them kind of sit in that corridor for the time being, putting presence on the point. But Chronic is going to find Siesta, so now you no longer have the wall for this fight. So now you're in this really interesting position to let this fight go on just slightly longer, try to drain away, and Chronic has a very tough choice here to make right now. They have to whether to invest or not. If you're coming this low onto the time clock, you're going to have to wonder whether investing now is the right choice or not, as Avernings going to bring it on, but Deco still going to go down first to start things up here, to send Avernings into the air. Unfortunately, no Deco to keep them alive. That's all it's going to take, but Grillmasters has to empty the entire bank just to win that fight. So despite losing, YEU does get out all of those ultimates in the process.
Yes, indeed, but you have to give up the point for it. So now your defense is a bit harder, but it is still possible. And you, as long as you cycle properly, you can do it, right? You have the minefield online, another duplicate already built up for Ame and Chronic, still holding on to this overclock. Now knowing there's no support ults on the other side, I think they're going to be looking to try to force the lamp out from Yoham, and then it should be the go button.
Ooh. Yeah, we're going to see that get invested kind of early there. We're going to see a couple people get low, but for the time being, it's kind of going to force them in this little corridor for the time being. So, going to buy yourselves a little bit of time, but eventually they're going to come out in full force with that TP. You can kind of see Strider just ready to try to knock them out. As actually, they're going to destroy the TP, and only 4 end up making it through. One of them did not make it through. I'm unsure who. As for the time being, Strider just gonna have to make sure that they stay alive. But right now, that card is not moving an inch right now. They're just worried about holding on to this high ground, but eventually somebody gonna have to get this going. As we see that investment once again, Siesta gonna be the first one to go down. Chronic taking care of them, and Ame might be in a desperate situation here in a moment, but are doing a great job to stay alive, and Will gonna fall directly afterwards as well. So yeah, EU finally making this Echo and Sojourn style work thus far.
Yes, indeed, and it's almost like there's a constant threat for Grillmasters everywhere they go. Now that they've gotten on top of these TPs and they're able to shut them down, it's, starting to throw Grillmasters for a tad bit of a loop here. They can't TP as effectively, they can't guarantee everyone's moving, so now they're just looking for some progress at all, maybe.
Yeah, we see Strider once again just rolling through, just causing a lot of chaos in the meanwhile, which is kind of all you need to do sometimes as that ball. Gonna try to hit them with the rock, but Strider just doing an amazing job at forcing this stall out. And now, whenever you want to invest, you can, because you force out the window. The overclock going to come online for Chronic. Trying to find a member right now is... Oh no, I don't know if they know what's about to hit them right there. The stickies come through. Not going to find anybody quite yet, but you are buying a ton of time right now as Ice going to have that Gravitic Flux online. I imagine it might be kind of an aggressive use of it here in a moment, as we're to see them flip not once, not twice, but pile it down over onto Ice once more. And honestly, this is just buying so much time. Even if you end up losing this, you're still going to be in an opportunity to be able to hold this. And right now, Strider going to survive, going to be able to take out that big health pack. And right now, this is just incredible this far, to the point where Ame is going to end up being thrown everything. Unfortunately, not going to be able to make that happen, sending down them into the minefield, trying to find somebody. You do find that trade, but you have to keep him up. And Dingo with the sleep of the lifetime. And now 15 seconds and counting. The wall going to be used aggressively, but yeah, EU trying to close this out right here and now, but Will still alive on the point. Averties, you have to be able to push them and get them out of here, trying to stay alive, but no heals left for Will. Will eventually going to go down Ice, falling directly afterwards, and yeah, EU with a fantastic hold here, and they're going to tie up the series, and Mega Glass, we have a series on our hands.
Yes, indeed, and Grillmasters, after that first defense, they probably felt really, really comfortable. They probably were all laughing, having a good time, realizing that they had it coasting. But EU decided that they had enough, and they were able to answer back with this split comp, right? And they were able to take advantages of the weakness of the Sigma comp, right? They played super split, didn't allow anybody to get pinned down, but most importantly, they answered the Symmetra. They were able to break those TPs, they were able to stop everything from coming through, and it almost made the game just feel that much easier for EU, because they shut down the main thing stopping them, and the cart sort of fell apart for Grillmasters.
Yeah, unfortunately so. It ends up working out, like, as you've already said, incredibly well, because, Chronic can just play super far off, and I know originally I was saying, I'm not sure if the Sojourn's going to work here anymore, but they eventually finally make it work, and this is what you need to do. Once you have this high ground control, you're able to play with Ame as well, kind of just go around the map and find the picks where needed, and honestly, Strider deserves a lot of credit. I know ball players may not get as much credit as they deserve sometimes, but just being able to take as much attention as they did, it's incredible. But it works well on Blizzard World, but I don't know if it's going to work quite as well on Flashpoint. And when we talk about Flashpoint, there's really only one map that these teams tend to go to, and that is going to be Serafasa. So I think that we're likely going to see a lot of the same rollouts between these teams. Oh, New Junk City. Oh, I am a dummy. I got perplexed earlier. I'm stupid. Mega Last, take over. I'm having dumb brain moments.
Well, yeah, but yeah, as you were saying, we normally see Serafasa as the pick here, and Grillmasters almost confidently going into New Junk City. They were able to kind of decide that one, so potentially something they've cooked up. But I don't think we're going to see much of a differentiation of styles. Maybe we'll see a differentiation of heroes, because New Junk City, it lends itself to those comps that are more grouped up, right? definitely is a bigger advantage to be kind of stacked into groups. Him TPing around, as you alluded to earlier, London Spitfire, they were famous for picking this map because nobody else would, and you could just, there's so many different little elevations and stuff on each of the flashpoints that you can TP to cause problems and just catch people off guard. So we will have to see kind of what, if Grillmasters are going to stick with this comp, seeing as YaEU, they, as we said, they sort of solved it, right? They were able to get the disruptions going through. They were able to stop the TPs, but it's just a matter of if that answer can truly stick in this next map.
Yeah, and I think that at the end of the day, this is kind of the right pick for Grillmasters as well, because this does open up the opportunity for them to be able to go back to that Rhine style. And there's a problem with YaEU in this situation, because we've seen them go two different styles thus far. We've seen the ball style comp, and it's not quite as good on New Junk City because a lot of these points aren't nearly as open. When you go to Suravasa, I feel like there's a lot more ability to kind of maneuver your way around, but New Junk City, especially that very first point as well, where it's very closed in, I don't think the ball's going to work there, so you kind of have the option of either trying to force that Doomfist again, which I don't think is correct, or it's putting YaEU in an uncomfortable situation again, so it does end up being a good map pick for Grillmasters.
Yeah, and it being their map pick, you'd expect them to pick something that benefits them, but YaEU, I mean, we've seen them on the Sigma, we've seen them now on the ball comp here, but potentially showing a bit of a different look, as at least in the spawn room, they are hovering the Doomfist with a Sombra and a Tracer. They typed it out in match chat. I mean, that's some next level confidence. If you type out your composition to the enemy team before the round starts and you actually roll out on it, you've already won some mental game. I don't know which one you won. But yeah, YaEU, my only fear with this comp, because you're going to be on Lucio, is going to be sort of Deco's safety on this Ana here, as we are seeing some actual switches at the last second here. We're back to the Sojourn Genji. We're playing it with the Doomfist this time instead of the Sigma, so super interested to see how this works out into Grillmasters, who are going to be running the Mei to start.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Strider got to move around on their own. Vernix is going to be over on the Lucio, mainly to kind of help, like, Chronic and Deco move around the map. So we're going to see a little bit of aggression, but Deco going to go down first. This is the unfortunate situation you have when you don't have the brick to be able to support your Ana. And now they're just going to come in together to link them one after another. Strider wants to try to escape with their lives, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to, but looks like they will. But Grillmasters, regardless, going to start out with the point. And I wonder, honestly, how long they're going to try this Lucio Ana style.
Well, I mean, obviously depending on people's hero pools, but I'd love to see potentially Deco move over to the Kiriko. It gives more mobility, more survivability, as well as this composition, you know, it doesn't need a lot of healing if it's executed right. You can get in really quickly and end the fight before anything's super needed, but we'll have to see.
Yep, missing the rock there does open the door for Strider to be able to move in here as soon as they have their slam ready to go, so gonna get aggressive over there on the side, looking for the punch. Strider, though, once again, in a bad situation, not to be able to get out, and Strider's just getting shut down on this Doomfist thus far. Ice is going to get very low, but I feel like the damage is already done against this team. You want to try to just get out of there if you're YaEU, trying to leave with as many members as you can. 60% in counting, and now, as you're losing more and more, it's going to become increasingly tougher to have an actual push for this last fight.
Yeah, and there's different kind of ideas about that, right? Do you try to rush in? Do you try to touch this point? Or do you just try to see if you can predict where the point's going next and set up for a good fight there? But one thing I think YaEU is definitely going to have to change is Strider. So far, each time this Doomfist has engaged, it's been alone. You need to sync up with your Genji, or at least potentially where the Sojourn damage is going to lie. Otherwise, this Doomfist, he's just going to get blown up time and again, as that will be the first point locked down for Grillmasters here. We are now heading outside, and the Nano Boost to engage.
Yeah, it's going to bring in a lot of damage. All in a quarter together, but that Immortality is going to work out wonderfully for Johan to be able to keep everybody up. But still, a Strayboard just gets caught there at the very end by the slam. So as long as Strider can stay up, there's a really good chance to win this fight. But as I say that, I'm making it go down first out the gate here. The overclock from Siesta is going to get a nice sliding shot over onto Chronic, and now Grillmasters in a really good position to start out with this second point once again. And now, unfortunately, you no longer have the Nano for that blade for this next fight either. And with Deco dying, especially, not going to be able to get any more of that charge either. So back to that conversation again of how long are you going to try and make this Doomfist work?
Yeah, but it's not even necessarily just the Doomfist, right? As we're seeing over to the Wrecking Ball, it is truly that your Ana, even if Deco is not dying off cooldown, it's just the pressure that is being put out onto an Ana in this composition with no real guaranteed peel is going to just make it so much harder.
Ooh.
But Chronic getting first picks like that are big.
Yeah, massive, especially when they had the window, and I imagine there was likely a plan to either use window or perhaps even that Flux aggressively. So now, YaEU set up in a really good position to win since the Flux is going to come online, looking to find some flyers, but it didn't look like they hit anybody. So now you see Strider putting some pressure on the point, but unfortunately, all that backup going to come back. Strider eventually going to be dropped, and now YaEU in a bit of a rough situation if they want to try to push right now. Straybor getting super low and has to be forced to use the beat as well. Chronic on top, trying to make some magic happen. The beat going to be vested on the other side. So now Ame going in that blade, finding one, needs to find another if they want to be able to make this work, and eventually going to drop with the damage going to be done. YaEU just need to be able to clean Will off on this point. They are going to cause that stall to go over to 99, and Will found it. Vernings and Chronic's down as well, so Strider having a little 1v1 here, but unfortunately the ball going to get rid of them, and now we're going to see the quick reset as YaEU burn a lot, but they do manage to take this fight and stall this out for a little while longer.
And one thing about Flashpoint is because of the varying where the points can be, right? Normally, staggers are super, super brutal. You're never going to get somebody back to the fight. But Strider on the Wrecking Ball can constantly bait back in these fights super aggressively, super quickly. And it gives YaEU such an advantage, especially at the end there, having to flip it back over, taking the 1v1 with the Sojourn. It could be a good avenue here.
Yep, gonna look up for that boop. Unfortunately, Strider, nothing gonna be found quite yet as the Nano onto the ball. Very interesting to see that. Trying to find somebody, but right now you do not want to peek right now if you're YaEU. And that boop is gonna come through, and Yoham gonna be set off the edge. He's gonna fall directly after the fact, and everybody just gonna follow through very quickly. So now, Grillmasters in a position where are they gonna try to touch with 80% and counting?
Yeah, and I mean, I was gonna say, I don't know about a touch necessarily, but Grillmasters, again, the ball is just doing so much work. Strider decided, he was like, oh, I see that you're using the overclock comboed with the window here. It's not going to work out for you, and just constantly being on the window, being annoying, as, yeah, they are just going to give it up, try to rotate to the next flashpoint, see if they can predict it at the very least, as we are looking to head to the complete opposite side of the map, and so I was going to say, Grillmasters will at least get favorable positioning. They'll be able to get in first here, but they are going to have to worry about a minefield from Strider.
Because the minefield is going to be nice, but unfortunately, we're in a situation where this is probably the worst map for this ball style come. Like, Strider has a very tough job to be able to get in here and make something happen, but they are not seeing it. They're going to be able to pressure out Will, and now they know that they want to set up for the wall and the freeze, so they're just going to throw that onto the ground. You're going to see the minefield come out, just booping people around, just causing just a whole lot of chaos. And honestly, it's doing quite a heck of a job. Nobody's going down, but you're taking away that fight from that middle ground right now as Strider just have to make sure they stay up. There's a Mega under there as we're going to see Ame going aggressive, but it's a Vernings that's going to drop first. Now Deco, no help. Will going to hunt them both down. Will trying to find a third of their own. Ame going to try to get out, but going to be shut down one after another. So now Grillmasters, they make that work despite the chaos that Strider was providing for YaEU.
And they make it work without investing anything, right? This Blizzard's still online, and they've built up to a Gravitic Flux as well as a beat. So Grillmasters have set themselves up favorably for this point here, as we're already taking above 50% by the time this next fight starts. Will gonna be looking for this Blizzard once more.
Yeah, I don't like supporting the idea of just losing a fight and trying to force out ultimates, but this is going to be a really tough fight for YaEU to be able to win, and I don't want them to see them use both of their DPS ultimates in a losing effort. I want to see maybe at the very most, you send Chronic out and go for that, but Chronic in a bad situation, that wall not going to catch anybody, and now Will has put themselves in a rough situation as the copy is going to come online. Ice trying to find somebody with that flux, averting in such a bad situation, eventually going to be taken out of the air by Siesta. Chronic, though, has found that revenge with getting Will, and now it's a 4v4 situation. The Rock barely missing Ame. Now Ame just trying to burn around these other members, but they're going to get sniped out of the sky as Siesta has found 3 of their own. Looking for that 4th, this Strider not going to be able to escape their clutches, and now both teams in a fantastic display. Grillmasters winning that, but Grillmasters, at the very least, they did have to use all 5 ultimates to win.
Yeah, they used all 5 ultimates, but they are going to be able to get the favorable position once again onto this next flashpoint here. EU, they're going to be looking to disrupt. Having another minefield online as well as the Nano allows this ball to do a lot of work, but I think I'd actually like to see the Nano go over to potentially Ame on this Echo and just find a quick pick potentially with the sticky bombs. Might be more reliable.
Yeah, there's a good chance because I imagine they're still going to send it to Strider. Here it comes. The aggression going to come in. That wall going to work out beautifully. Still going to find the power drive. Still going to put in a lot of damage. But Strider, I don't care how much damage you can output. You're going up against that Lucio in that BAP. It's going to be so tough to be able to break through that mobility and all the healing that can provide. So, EU not able to sneak away that point down there. As Ice eventually going to be taken down. Ame had that beam nice, charged up, ready to go. As you can see, all this pressure, Strider just forcing everybody in this really uncomfortable position. And now, just trying to keep them split apart, keep that pressure rocking. You don't want to give over this point for the first touch if you can avoid it. So coming up with that power drive, catching on to Stone Money, and Straybor has a very tough choice here of whether or not to use this beat in the upcoming fight because this is winnable. And with those mines, though, it's going to cut them off temporarily. But Ice has come back on the Doomfist now to be able to try to shut down Strider on this ball. And that's one heck of a choice as now Grillmasters is going to be becoming the winners of this fight. EU in a really rough situation now.
Yeah, and it comes down to the sustain on the supports, right? Deco constantly under pressure, constantly afraid for their own life here. There's just too much damage for an Ana to really ever be able to sit favorably anywhere. And EU, now they're having a bit of an uphill battle. They're going to have their DPS ults online before this next fight as long as they wait. But, I mean, Grillmasters, they're about to have almost everything. Even Ice already 70% to the Meteor Strike.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that Grillmasters might just hold off for a few seconds as well. Make sure that there's not an opportunity for Yayu to be able to take another fight. As Ame gets sniped out of the sky by Siesta. And now the bar is set for Grillmasters to be able to wrap this one up. You just need to trace down this ball, this support line. And right now, Siesta just making their job to make sure that this line just cannot get anywhere. So now it's down on Strider to get this touch. And I wonder if they're going to be able to as you can see them slipping, sliding around, gonna go under, force the touch, gonna hide back away and be able to commit one more touch, but now their positioning is gonna be given away. So now, we're just gonna see them poking away little by little, gonna manage to get the third one, that copy from Aming, hoping to find some kind of receipts before the time being, just really working on trying to flip that point, but they are going to get off of it, but more than worth it to get rid of Siesta as the point gonna flip directly back over. You can see that freeze come through in the back line, and so many members in a bad spot. 3 are going to be caught in now. All sent down to their frozen graves as Strider, the only man left standing. They have the mines to be able to throw them down. You have to send them down and just hope for the best, but unfortunately, mines can only block so much damage. And now Strider likely not going to get another touch as EU not able to make it happen. Grillmasters going to go up 2-1 in the series.
Yeah, and Grillmasters, EU, they kind of set the challenge like, hey, we have this ball comp, we can stop you, we can disrupt you, and it was on Grillmasters to respond, and they responded in a pretty effective manner, not just with the map pick, but even some slight adaptations. The Doomfist being able to kind of get the value that it needed to, being able to disrupt the Wrecking Ball from disrupting, and so it gave such a big advantage to Grillmasters to be able to kind of work their way around, but they got to be able to do something like that on map picks that aren't custom tailored to them.
Yeah, definitely. So you're gonna have to kind of go through that, and like when we eventually we'll go to break here in a moment, but eventually when they come back onto a map like Push, I wonder what they're going to go for. I mean, I think your best case scenario, if you want to still try to make this ball comp work, I think you kind of almost have to go to a point like Esperanza, where there is a lot of high ground to kind of open up with, to kind of work with, no matter what point you are in the map, to be honest. So I imagine that's your best call, but I have been wrong many, many times before. I'm expecting to potentially be wrong again, but hey, we're not going to know until we get back. So make sure you stick around right now. 2-1 in the favor of Grillmasters. We'll see you right after this break.
Why we live. You say you wanna try, but you
Welcome back, everybody, to the EU PC Grand Finals between Grillmasters and YaEU. And so far, this has been quite the series so far. Grillmasters is up 2-1 in the series, and honestly, Mega Last, after that very first map, I think the expectation was set that this might end up potentially being a quick one, but YaEU has proved that they do have a lot of fight in them, and it has been on the back of this ball comp, but right now, Grillmasters may have unlocked the key to being able to shut it down.
Well, yeah, and it could be the ball comp, but it also could be these map selections that have been coming through, right? Grillmasters being able to pick New Junk and Lijiang Tower, two maps they clearly were confident on, whereas when YaEU took them to Blizzard World, it was a different story, and now with the ball back in YaEU's favor, it is going to be New Queen Street that we are going to for push, which honestly is not the one I expected. We talked about it before the break. Esperanza definitely feels like it would lend itself a bit better to the Wrecking Ball, or sort of just being able to play split and stuff like that. This is definitely a map that almost feels better for what Grillmasters have been running. A lot of stacked up, grouped together compositions, but maybe YaEU finally caving in, wants to run the mirror or something akin to it, just sort of take this blow back and forth.
Yeah, it's definitely a big possibility, as well as the ball is still kind of possible on a map like New Queen Street. There is a lot in the streets phase where you can kind of move around very vertically at the same time. Like, you do still have that little big high ground on the far right side. You have the little pathway on top that you can kind of play between along with the buses. You definitely still have the possibility to make it work, but we're going to see if that's going to happen, because it's looking like they are teasing it once again, and I'm not surprised by either of these comps between these two teams right now.
Yeah, and I talked about this on our last map. It's just a matter of Deco being on an island, Averting's having to dedicate a lot of peel, sort of with this comp. I'd almost like to see, talked about it before, an adaptation over to maybe a Kiriko with a Lucio. This comp doesn't need as much healing as you think. Strider can definitely find a lot of health packs and things like that while constantly rolling around, but they want to stick with the Honor Brig. They have faith in it, so I guess we're going to have faith in it as well. Meanwhile, Grillmasters, you know it, you love it, it's a meta comp.
Yep, Strider, though, they were looking for that initial move to start things out, but actually, we're going to see a rotation come through from Grillmasters. They want to make sure nobody's hiding in that back corridor, so gonna force everybody off of that initial high ground, and everybody you can kind of see it's playing super far back, because this is kind of like how they have to play. They just are waiting for Strider to set up, and that's a really nice tech there, but Ice was not more than ready for it, sending them back down to the ground, and now Strider gonna have to leave, get some heals, but unfortunately Yoham gonna get that nice final blow. Everybody's shooting their way, so now YaEU doesn't really have a chance to win this fight, so they just need to back up and try to keep their members alive.
Yes, indeed, and it's actually going to be a little bit difficult here. Ice dropping incredibly low, but is going to be healed up. I think that was literally 1 HP there with the anti-applied. My goodness. And now the fight's starting Ame down.
Yeah, and now, as you see, once again, DK Averting's playing together, and Ame does going down is going to be a little devastating, because now Averting's going to have to try to just back up. You are going to be able to get rid of Siesta, but that's not going to be enough to be able to start bringing this fight into your favor. You need to make sure to get Deco and Averting's back for us, but that is enough to potentially bring this one back. You get rid of Streamboard, so now you don't have that mobility to move around. There's a really good chance that they can stop this before it gets to the checkpoint as Strider back in, force them into this little cubby for the time being, trying to find somebody on the rock, but right now, Ice has to just make sure to try to survive, as we see a little bit of aggression from Strider, trying to force them off a little bit, so gonna buy themselves a little space as Grillmasters, gonna take over this little high ground cubby and just wait for the opportunity to drop down, and again, really good tech by Strider to make their way back up in that situation. It's causing all the chaos, but you saw that right there, it gets stopped. But it's going to work out great for Ame, who was ready with that as well, as the Flux going to go up in the air. Going to try to find some members, as eventually going to manage to find a ton. Eyes going to be taken down, but Ame not able to do more to take them out. So Grillmasters should be able to get this checkpoint without any more opposition.
Yeah, and Grillmasters, very interesting that they're down one, to start that fight out, but Yoham decides to dedicate, the amplification matrix, and they're able to win that one out anyway. But now YaEU having to come forward. Luckily, the forward spawns were not activated. That checkpoint was not obtained, so it's not a bad spot for YaEU to be in, especially with 5 ults online.
Yep, we see Strider get hit with that nano once again, going for the nade on top of it. Not going to find anybody, but you do see CS separated over on the side, getting burnt away, and now you're in a little corridor, managing to kind of just play a little game there and able to stay away from Strider. But Yoham is going to be the first one to drop, as right now they sent that bot all the way back. 3, 2, 1, barely going to get there in time to stop them from getting that checkpoint. But in that process, Ame going to go down as the 1v1 happening on the point. Will should be able to last here for a little while longer, but now they're in a really awkward situation back here, as they're just going to go right back to the point, but Will not going to get out that time, as Yaiu should be able to start getting some form of progression here.
Yeah, and this weird back and forth that started off the back of the Nano, but interestingly, the Nano's the only thing that's been invested, so Yaiu now getting some push going of their own here, and they have a plethora of ults to be able to kind of get a good push going, as long as they don't go down to necessarily this Blizzard or this Overclock on the other side that Grillmasters have ready.
Yeah, and honestly, the only person you're really going to be able to hit with that freeze is going to be that backline of Deco and Averting, so gotta have to try to find the opportunity, as right now, again, just gonna see just Strider going around, trying to be as much of a nuisance as possible as Deco Averting's hanging out on that high ground, making sure to stay alive, as you're gonna see Siesta gonna get driven in by for the time being. A lot of damage being done to him, but being able to get the support to make sure they stay up. And right now, that cart might not be going a whole lot of places right now, but you are taking little by little, and Siesta has a big opportunity here, but unfortunately, Chronic not going to give him the chance to make the impact, so now not able to have the overclock for this. Going to try to go down and go around and find somebody. The Rock not able to quite register, as we see the little bit of stall from the high ground, and as a matter of fact, going to go up there. Strider once again showing them that they know they're Baltic, going to get out with their lives temporarily as well. Just waiting for the opportunity to throw out the freeze. Gonna yeet it across the way, trying to find somebody, but it's not going to freeze anybody. And now Will gonna have to use the ice block, but Chronic basically threw themselves down into death, I will say. But still, this fight is getting brought back regardless. Yaiu is just able to bring back a lot of these fights where it seems like they shouldn't be able to. And now we see the investment once more, trying to find another. Averting's going to be given that nano, going to help out, going to be able to find Yoham in the process. A nice drive over onto Siesta, and Yaiu is just somehow making magic happen over regardless. Going to send that down, force them into this room. Mega Glass, Yaiu forcing such a scruff of a fight, but they're making this work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to see some probably stagger here onto the Sigma and the Mei, but it's just absolutely crazy. Chronic going down once again, though, could spell the end of this push here for Yaiu. They've invested quite a few ultimates, and ooh, the Brig might get found.
Oh yeah, but they're together still. Deco and Averting through all that are still together, and they find Will. This is just outstanding from this support line specifically. Like, Strider's still putting in a lot of work. Ame and Quantic are still being a nuisance in their own right. But Deco and Averting just do not want to drop. They do not want to let their team go down. And now we do see Chronic having the overclock nice and ready to go. That could be what brings us into the favor, as it's going to come online. Ame going to be the first one to drop, but Chronic manages to find Siesta going out through the air. The support line in a heck of a lot of trouble, as Chronic has now found a second of their own. Just need to come together, as we see the patience from Strider to find this backline. And not only does Yaiu get the lead, but they unlock themselves the checkpoint and the close spawns.
Yeah, and what's really odd is, you know, Grillmasters, they were so good about getting onto Deco and Avertings in that last map, but here on New Queen Street, they've almost kind of lost the plot, or Avertings has leveled up on this Brigitte, just absolutely being a menace here. And it's giving Yaiu this fresh breath of life here, already having the checkpoint unlocked. That means you have forward spawns, means you can take more contested fights. Yaiu's got it all going in their favor right now.
Yeah, and finally they're making the correct choice to be able to put the pressure onto the high ground. Strider got actually hit with the nano, so now they're in a situation where they have to go around, try to make it work again. They're waiting for the opportunities. The mine's going to go down. At the very least, it is going to separate them, but we do see two ultimates that end up being used, and ultimately nobody is going to die as a result of them. So now Yaiu gonna have to back up, regroup for this fight, and honestly, Grillmasters have an opportunity to win this with potentially only one ultimate if the opportunity is put in front of them. So Strider just gonna keep causing some chaos, nobody down quite yet, and that bot's just gonna keep moving along forward as they're just gonna try to steal it back. Invest the beat to start things out here. Averting's gonna send in that rally to make sure they survive. Strider gonna cause a lot of chaos, managing to hit the double boop. And now Siesta gonna be out in no man's land on their own, just trying to find somebody, as Chronic will be the very first one to fall. And now with Ame not having any kind of backup right now, gonna have to invest over on the Sigma. And unfortunately, not looking like it's gonna pay off a whole lot. A lot of heals being sent their way, but right now, You just got to hit that reset button, and I imagine now these supports stalling out on the point. Grillmasters should be able to get the checkpoint, but that doesn't mean they're quite going to get the lead.
Yeah, I think that butt scratch that's going to have to occur, that time that is just dedicated to the bot standing still and waiting as, Strider caught in a bad position, slowed by the May. That could actually spell disaster here, depending on how quick that respawn comes up. Luckily gets the respawn fast because of the checkpoint being captured. And now ult's already thrown in.
They're investing heavily, but nobody down quite yet. Chronic, though, eventually going to fall. Siesta going to manage to find Ame. At that point, he's going to go over to the favor of Grillmasters. Yaiu had an opportunity, but unfortunately losing Strider early really costing you there. But Yaiu, this next fight, it's going to be super important. And losing a Furting... Oh, God, that's not good.
No, it's not good at all here, and it's just more and more meterage that Yaiu is going to have to claw back, all of a sudden finding themselves on the back foot here. Even if you engage onto the bot, like you're seeing Strider about to do, there's a blizzard you're going to have to worry about and try to sustain through, as this bot is about to crest the top of the hill.
Yeah, and they get all knocked off the high ground. In fact, they're going to uninvest in that same situation. So now we see that Nano onto Ame this time around, trying to find somebody. Going to send a power drive through, throw them up into the air, get Will super low. Going to have to use the block to stay alive. And in fact, a lot of members low. And Ame going to find Siesta to be able to start out this match. But Chronic going down directly after the fact. And right now, Strider just with the tech under the trees as well. And now they're going to manage to find Yohem. They will drop directly afterwards. But eventually, Yaiu should be able to stop this cart as Chronic goes over to the Widowmaker?
I mean, you're in this... I was going to say, I think the Widowmaker's just people are in spawn. You're trying to take shots out of spawn type of deal here. But no, Chronic is actually staying. I mean, this is
wild.
I was going to say, this is an extreme gambit as we're dipping below 30 seconds. That means you're going in overtime. You're looking for quick picks. And, I mean, Chronic has been fine on the Soldier, but that's the pick you need.
Yeah, and now Will's not going to have the freeze for this fight, so Grillmasters have to answer right here. But Chronic's found a second on the Straybor, so now Grillmasters in a really tough position where they're not even going to be able to stall this out. So Yaiu with a good opportunity to be able to send themselves back onto that checkpoint, unlock it. They will get the close spawns once more. As Strider gonna have to do their best to stay on this point because honestly, this could come down to one big final fight where it's only 70 or 20-some meters away for the time being. They send the window on the far side, so now we're gonna see that freeze being invested off the point for now, but they are gonna be able to get the retouch here in a moment, but it gets stolen away! Oh no! It gets stolen away! They can't make it back in time. Such a heads-up play from Grillmasters, and so unfortunate for Yaiu.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a matter of the blizzard got dropped on cart, so everyone disengaged, but I think the assumption was that, oh, I'll just go back to where the freeze is, I'll tap it at the last second so I don't get frozen, and instead, the play from Grillmasters just pushed the bot further away, so it just was too far out of range for Strider. And now Yaiu find themselves in an incredible uphill battle to try to win this series out because Grillmasters, they've been dominating, they've been strong, and now they're on match point as we're heading into Escort.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an unfortunate situation. Like, I've seen this happen many times, like in this situation, like obviously casting specifically, but where you kind of have this back-breaking moment where you're so close to being able to close out the map and make it happen because they were close to doing it too. There's a really good chance they could have won that last fight if they just avoided the freeze and got somebody back on time. Just, it's so unfortunate how that went down, but this is where we're kind of going to see what kind of team Yaiu is. Are they simply a good team that manages to, win themselves to second place and a little bit of pride? Or are they an amazing team that can come back from being down 3-1, that can make this series their own because they've proven that they can win matchups against Grillmasters? Just with this ball comp, it seems to be the only thing that's actually beating Grillmasters so far today, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's necessarily the ball that I'm looking towards. Right? Strider's doing amazing work and doing exactly what's needed for this composition to work out, but I think if you need someone to step up, I don't want to put pressure on any one person, but it's got to be Chronic. On the Sojourn, the value's been hit or miss, but when it hits very effectively. You see Chronic in the kill feed getting the crucial picks, and then that swap to the Widowmaker at the end was absolutely phenomenal. Got 2 key picks to give themselves a good start to the overtime push. Unfortunate that it ended with the C9, but maybe that's something you want to kind of rely on, right? Potentially put Chronic onto Widowmaker in a situation to succeed and just let the picks fly, and maybe this escort map will be the one that does it, as we are heading over to Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Yeah, this is honestly where it's still going to work out for this team, because I imagine you're still going to run Strider on that ball, but you do have a situation where Chronic has proven through the 30 seconds we saw that they can make a Widowmaker work. So I imagine we're to see that come out at the very least, but I just wonder if you're going to keep this little Deco Avertings lineup with that Brig and that Ana, because honestly, it has worked out really well. Like, I think this has been one of the strongest points of this team, because Deco and Avertings, like, even if they somehow get split up at one point, they somehow make their way back into each other, manage to stay alive, manage to help win these fights a lot of the time as well. So I wonder how that's going to work when on a map like Watchpoint Gibraltar, there's a lot of maneuvering you're going to have to do to be able to kind of commit these rotations, because it takes a long time without an ability to jump up high in the air or fly up to be able to rotate on some of these high grounds.
Yeah, but I mean, even taking, the specifications of the map out of your mind for a second, right? Ever since Escort has moved to that 5th map type, it's something that is very rare to see. A lot of series can end in a 3-1 or a 3-0 looking to bracket play. I don't even know the last time the Grillmasters have played a 5th map. Surely they've scrimmed Escort maps and things of that nature, but like really actually getting into the nitty-gritty of it, how much time have you put into Escort with some of these strategies? Are you potentially banking off of old strategies that still work? Because I'd say this is one of the few maps in the game where the Sigma comp is not a guarantee in any sense of the imagination, right? Winston's still heavily favored here. A lot of teams can't even run the Diva and things of that nature. And Grillmasters, while we've seen them do slight variations, we haven't seen them on any sort of dive comp. So this might just be a map that's completely out of their element.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. I went to go do myself a little bit of quick research to see if I could find something about Escort. And the last time they played an Escort match in a match was in week 5 against Oblivion T6, where they ended up winning on Circuit Royale 3-2. So it's definitely been a hot minute since they gone onto an Escort map, but still, you have to give credit to a team that never usually has to go to a map 5 to begin with. That's a great sign of dominance. Or the other side of the coin, sometimes that's a sense of, man, we can't even win 2 maps to make it to the map 5. But no, this is just a dominant team that never has had to go here. But now you're going up against a group of players that should be realistically at their strongest on this type of map.
Exactly, but Grillmasters, this is a very good team, right? If they wanted to bring out an extra layer, show us a dive, and I'm gonna be real, I look over, I see they're on defense, so I know this comp is real. This is gotta be either Grillmasters is about to full hold or they're about to get steamrolled. There's no in between with this composition when you're on the Rhine with this MTP. It truly is a gambit and a half. I mean, there's just no other way to put it, right? You run this because you don't want to play dive. You're going to try to TP around, constantly be setting the tempo before anything can get set up by YEU, but
they don't know.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, they're hiding in the side room, probably TP'd around. There's probably no indication that they're here, as we will see the Bastion at least give himself away!
There's no way they get away with that. So now the TP gonna be set down. Not sure where it was set for them to go to. I can't see the other side of it quite yet, but we're to see them just stall out this area, and you just have to send in a ton of damage. So there's a really good chance Chronic is gonna go around here, try to find somebody in the backline, but a really smart setup. So now they know that Chronic was trying to get around. As we already see a little bit of the pressure, they're gonna create a bunch of stall from this, but eventually you do have to make your way out. The TP gonna send them over to the other side. Just had to try to drill down one of these members of YEU. Chronic not going to quite be caught with that nade, but Ame going to manage to find Ice to start things out here. Will in a little quarter by themselves. And right now, you see that little bit of stall, but Chronic shutting it down quickly. You do buy yourselves a little bit of time from Grillmasters, but now you have no presence on this high ground coming into the next fight.
And the presence is going to have to be probably TPing Will up there, but that's burning your TP. It makes your Ryan a little bit less mobile. And even if you TP the Bastion up to high ground, it's not a guarantee, right? If Chronic can find a key headshot here, potentially force Will back to the supports, it could be massive. But the anti!
The anti with the sticky nades? Oh, that's so beautiful. And now Chronic going to be able to cut them off in a situation where, remember, they still have that TP to work with. So if Siesta does want to take them somewhere, they definitely can, as they're going to take over that top right high ground. Chronic getting sniped away at by Ice for the time being, who's just trying to peek to the best of their ability, trying to stall out the point, as the mine's going to be a big present on point, as Siesta going to be the first one to go down. Averting's on the prowl with that Kiriko, and now this fight quickly going into the favor of YaEU. Grillmasters, they try the Symmetra strategy up close, and Megalast, it does not pay off.
No, it does not. Now, the question is, do they stick with this Ryan? They're going to keep trying to TP around, or do they give up the go? And it seems like they're still holding on to it. Oh, nope. I spoke too soon. It's a complete comp switch up here. We're on to some Brig. Oh, but the Brig's off the map! Instantly! Can't even finish saying that they went to Brig before it's gone. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Grillmasters now onto a Diva, a Hanzo, as well as an Echo of their own. The Brig gonna have to think twice before walking out of spawn this time. Look at that, the double check for the ball.
Yeah, and we do see Will come in over on that Echo now. Getting low, but it's eventually going to be dropped by Strider as well. Looking for the headshot onto Deco, not able to find it. As right now, we just see a lot of pressure being given to Strider. Noctis, he has to back in. And unfortunately, it was a little bit of a cat and mouse game. Kept them in, got rid of them, but still losing Avertings is going to be a very tough situation now for YaEU, where Chronic not able to find a whole lot on that Widow. Yoham is going to get a lot of pressure, and they managed to barely catch him on the Pro Drive, so now Strider has a really tough choice here to make, and I imagine they're just going to grab the Mega and wait a few seconds for a big reset.
Yep, make sure the whole team comes back. You lost some pick potential without Alme or Chronic in the fight, and you're seeing now the Tracer in play for Grillmasters here. They're pivoting to full dive, which means that Deco is about to get absolutely massacred, to say the least. It's just going to be dive constantly onto the sports.
A bomb had to come off to make sure that ISIS could get back in the mech. They are going to be able to remech on that as well, as that's a nice leap onto Siesta, and now they're looking for it, trying to get it. That's a nice DM, though, to be able to keep them alive. So they're going to be able to live once more, but they'll be able to lose that Strider getting super duper low, and now Ame, unfortunately, caught out of position, and now YaEU stuck in this room, and this is the last place they want to be as a unit. You are eventually going to get rid of Siesta this time, but right now, the damage has to be more than already done. Siesta, the only, Strider, the only person left standing. If you get Ice out, that's actually big, getting Ice out of mech, and especially if Strider can live, who's trying to get out, and they live. And Ice is going to be out of mech for this next fight.
Not only out of mech, but there's just enough health that needs to be put in that you were able to build up super close to your rally and your nano. So now you're going to be engaging with every tool you could ever ask for here. Grillmasters. Actually, Ice went all the way back to spawn just to reset that mech, knowing how necessary it was for this fight.
Yep, and now we're seeing that nice little split up. You see those supports just being knocked around into a corner over and over again.
Oh,
and you have that come through with that anti. And now you're in a tough situation if you're Grillmasters. It's just Ice and Will. Ice gonna loop around to the high ground where they grab the Mega. So they're going to set themselves in a position where they're going to be able to touch again, but Strider doesn't want to give them the opportunity to simply go without paying a little bit of blood in the process as well. Going to be taken out by Chronic, who's now over on that Tracer. Already 70% right now, as we see the commitment from the side of Grillmasters. Going to try to make some magic happen. We see that nade coming through. Going to catch down to nobody for the time being, but that sleep going to be more than effective. And so far, Ameg helping with keeping Avertings up, who does not have the help of their usual Ana. Eventually taken out as they're making their way back into this fight. Not able to quite get the nano, as somehow Grillmasters come back into that fight.
Yes, indeed, they come back and they are able to turn that fight in their favor. Obviously, it took a bit of investment. They threw there. Chronic at some point switched over to the Tracer, is going to be having this pulse bomb, and this is going to have to be potentially another hero moment from Chronic if you want to get this second point.
Yeah, Ice being able to get out from near death, but Will, not the same case situation as right now. Ame going to be taken out by Siesta, so it's a nice little trade-up. And now, you're in a rough situation where you just have to full-on invest into this room right now, trying to help get rid of the support lineup as the bomb going to come online kind of aggressively. It's going to get rid of nobody. Chronic gets super low, but is going to be kept up for the time being, but eventually going to be forced up into a very uncomfortable situation, taken out as Yoham suddenly found their way into the face of a mine. Not sure how that quite went down, as right now this room is just complete chaos. The pulse coming online and managing to dodge right out of the way in the process, but now we're in that final fight territory with Ame going down. That is going to spell a very bad situation for Yaiu. We see the copy come online from Will as well over on that Ana. Already anti, already a bit of a whack situation as Siesta is just getting all the help in the world in this back line. Like, it's so tough to be able to take care of them when they have all of the support. Unfortunately, Deco eventually going to be taken out as Will has decided that it's better to not be here, I guess. That's probably a little bit of a DC. That's a very unfortunate timing, but with that DC, I think the one question we have to ask is, despite it, is the damage already done to Yaiu?
I mean, the question is that, like, that's the question exactly, right? We just saw Deco go down. Is Strider in a position to touch this payload? I believe, if I can see, there's actually only 6 seconds left on the clock, and, you know, being able to get back to that payload is not necessarily a guarantee, right? DCs like this are obviously unfortunate, but, you know, we live in a world where tech issues are a thing. It happens. Sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches. And yeah, Yaiu, I don't know exactly what happened. They walked in on this, walked into point B really well. They were countering the Rhine comp, but Grillmasters, they show us yet another comp, right? They show how flexible they can really be, completely pivoting, and I think a lot of the credit has to be given to Ice on this diva here, right? We saw how powerful those antis were on the Rhine comp, and they've pretty much gone silent, which means one of two things. Either Deco has somehow unbound the grenade key, or Ice is just simply gobbling them all up with that defense matrix. So it creates a very weird situation. As we are back into it, will there be a touch?
Yeah, they're looking for it. We already see that touch from Chronic, of all people, who on the Tracer doesn't want to have to use that if they don't have to, but unfortunately got to use their abilities, and now they're being put into a corner. We're going to see that commitment from Siesta to be able to take them out. Now Strider, the next commitment onto the point, trying to make their way back. They will force another touch, but unfortunately, the damage is already done for this team right now. Trying to make it back with that nano, but unfortunately, Ame not going to be able to make it back. An unfortunate situation for Yaiu as now Grillmasters, the line is set for them to be able to take the championship.
Yeah, it's no longer just, oh, they take another map, we got another map. It truly is, the championship is on the line. And Grillmasters, you know, they're so absolutely close, they can almost taste it, but you can't get over your head just yet, right? Yaiu, they definitely can hold, or at least stall some good time off of the bank on point A here, especially if Chronic is able to go back over to that Widowmaker, doesn't necessarily feel the pressure from Grillmasters. We've seen what that sniper can do, but it's only a matter of time to see how these teams want to play it out.
Yep, definitely going to have to see, as right now we are seeing nothing a whole lot different from Yaiu. You have Chronic over there, and the Widow Strider still on the ball, because honestly, we're at a point right now in the series where your back is just completely up against the wall, and sometimes the best thing you can do in that situation is just play what you're best at, regardless of how well it may or may not be working, because this did work very well initially. They managed to have it was like a 4.5 minute time bank going into the second point, but second point is a very notorious place to try to break through, because once the defense set ups, it's really, really hard to cap it.
Yes, indeed, and it's just going to be interesting to see how these TPs work. If all 5 are anti!
Oh, mama!
Oh my goodness gracious!
That was that everyone knows that strategy. They knew it. They went for it, and it ends up working out. So now you're kind of just stuck in this room right now. Gonna try to burn them out one at a time, but you do not want to lose anybody doing this. And Ice needs to go down. Like, Ice is being kept up by Johan from afar, but eventually Johan gonna be taken down first. Averting's being kept up, and now Grillmasters gonna lose all of their members. Yaiu ready for that one.
Well, one key thing that a lot of people forget about that Symmetra strat where you TP on high ground is either you commit there to win the fight there, or you send your other DPS on Tracer onto the cart to put some cart pressure. That way the defense has to decide where their focus is going to go. Now, over to the Diva, the Grillmasters completely swap back to what they were on before on their defense, realizing that the cart is going to be the way they push this, as well as having to eat these anti-nades is a priority.
Yep, and Shredder's just getting all the heals in the world from Deco, and the Nano is already online over to Ame right now. He's trying to find somebody right now. Will gets kind of low with that anti, but Strider's unfortunately in the same boat, and now you don't have the necessary person to be able to stall at that point anymore. So now Yaiu have to make a very crucial decision whether or not to invest or not. You're going to see them start backing off, trying to make sure they don't give up too much space, but you have to make sure everybody lives, and Chronic barely stays alive.
Barely stays alive, but staying alive is all you need, as now Strider will be back on the Wrecking Ball to take the fight with the rest of the team on this other side of the hill. You know, some people call it the collar wash going beneath, but interestingly, you know, Avertings is going to use the rally up on the high ground.
Yeah, and
Baylor's just pushing.
Yeah, Siesta's just going to keep pushing. And even if they lose this fight, this is really big for Grillmasters. Now, there's a situation where you're not going to be able to, you know, do much of anything else. Will is going to eventually drop here. Going to get slammed. No, Will just literally slip through the back line. Barely manages to not get out. And Ice is going to find Chronic. So they shut down the high ground a little bit. But unfortunately, Siesta not able to make their way out. So should be a reset time period. Yayu halfway there to making the full hold happen. But it's still a long way to go.
Long way to go. Grillmasters having all 5 ults in the bank here. This is going to be super, super dangerous for the defensive hold of YEU, as Grillmasters can just chuck any combo of things. And Deco going down before anything, that cannot happen.
Yeah, and we see Ice just going to be able to give a lot of pressure onto Chronic, who's just going to get just thrown out of there right now. And Ame going to be the first one to drop. Chronic is just getting bulldozed right now. Like, I like Chronic on this Widow, but unfortunately, Ice is more than ready for it now. They're going to keep shutting it down, so Chronic, I think they might be better off going to something like the Tracer instead, honestly. Sombra?
Potentially, or it could be a Sombra to try to harass this D.Va just a little bit, recognizing what Ice is doing. Will with another disconnect, kind of unfortunate. But Grillmasters, what's really great for their offense here is they just kind of took that off of raw picks. They had 5 ults in the bank, and they still do, assuming Will can hold on to his on that reconnect. And, you know, that could be phenomenal. It could just be a one-and-done point B push here, as now, you know, the golden box of victory, it's no longer behind the doors, it's in sight. And YEU, they have a tall task ahead of them.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, because obviously Chronic could still change. Like, they're probably still in the spawn room right now after picking the Sombra. I wonder what you're going to attempt to go for here, because, like, I understand having to pick, like, go off with the Widowmaker. I agree with that. I called that. I'm happy that it's happening. But someone like Siesta has been able to get away with a lot. Like, obviously a lot throughout the series, but especially on this Tracer on Gibraltar, they've gotten away with pushing the car for free. They've gone away with, like, fighting in the back line, being slept multiple times, but still living through it. Like, Siesta has gotten away with a lot. And I feel like the best way to try and solve that is to just try to match the Tracer back.
Yeah, but if you're not confident in that Tracer duel, you know, Tracer she plays very different on Watchpoint Gibraltar compared to other maps. Normally, she's just a flanker DPS. You don't think much of her. She can get some pulse bombs in here or there. But she truly is the one that has to push the cart for both of these compositions when you're on the offense. She has to be the one to constantly tapping the payload, making sure the objective is moving exactly as it needs to, when it needs to, as well as being able to blink in and help clean up the fight as needed. So Chronic, I mean, I'm sure you could go over to the Tracer. I'd be interested to see the Sombra pick, simply because it's going to put a wrench into what Ice is doing, right? This constant defense matrix, this constant jumping of the supports, it can't happen if you're constantly hacked or just simply being pestered by a Sombra, where, you know, that's just another thing that you can't focus down, right? Sombra can get in, do a little bit of damage, cause a little bit of mischief, and then, you know, throw that translocator and get away. It's almost like another Wrecking Ball, just with a lot less HP.
I mean, I understand that point of view a lot, but the problem is that the 3 people you're going to be dealing with a lot, which is going to be, obviously, Siesta, Ice, and Straybor. Unfortunately, remember that the hack is going to get canceled. The moment they get touched by the slightest bit of damage, it could be a speck in the wind of 1 damage that is going to end up stopping the hack from going through. So all Ice have to do is do the quickest flick over to the side, hit them once, just like that. Now your situation is, oh, well, I can't hack for another couple of seconds. I'm in a bad situation. Or maybe you have just Strayboard that's just going to slap them upside the head and say, like, oh, now I can't do anything. I think this can work, but YEU, this first fight is going to be incredibly important, because if Grillmasters just keep on rolling, YEU is going to be consistently on the back foot of being 1 fight away from losing it all. So this next fight, it means a lot to them.
Yes, indeed. And Will joining back into the match. We see the D.Va just flipping around, and a minefield already invested.
That's a choice. It is definitely a choice. Oh, that's a good nade on top of it, though, but they're going to invest a rally on top of it to make sure that everybody stays up, and it's actually a Verdings that is going to drop in return. So now the copy as well, and Yu is putting a lot of investment into this fight right here, and right now they're just going to send in the Diva, eventually going to get slept, so Ice gonna have to take a nice little rest as Chronic is going to manage to find Will out of the sky, trying to keep alive. Deco is a Verdings who is able to get that support, but now with all that space being taken, Ice is going to stay up, and now this is only one push away from Grillmasters taking their title, and right now it's Ame on the top, who's just trying to do something, but they're in a bad position, going to be forced onto the point to make things happen. The hack onto Ice, but they're still going to have the bomb. Is Deco going to be the first one to fall? Ame falling directly afterwards. The bomb in the air, going to get rid of Strider, and Grillmasters are going to be your EUPC champions of Season 12.
I almost hate how anticlimactic that felt because of the DC. It was kind of like we joined back in, and then there was one real fight, and it just ultimately was over. Grillmasters, they pulled up. They've been dominant this whole season. Not a loss to their name, dropping a few maps here and there, but ultimately it does not matter. They hold the championship high. They hold it well, and full props to EU, but you were simply just outclassed today.
Yeah, and we did see like the flashes of brilliance. We'll kind of like quickly skim by every map. Obviously, Grillmasters started out amazing over there on Lijiang Tower. As I said, that is a big pace setter of a map. So it definitely ended up being the case as they do take that 2-0. But EU, they came back and ran this ball comp on their defense, and I got it worked out brilliantly. They realized that they could shut down the Sigma style comp, but obviously, Grillmasters then bring them to New Jug City, where the ball is not as viable as a character. They try to make the Doomfist work. Unfortunately, Grillmasters just kind of had the key for that. New Queen Street, a very similar case where it just ends up being a very unfortunate. It doesn't quite qualify as a C9, but we're going to call it that regardless. And then, unfortunately, it just does not work out over here on Watchpoint Gibraltar. Grillmasters go the Diva comp to be able to shut down Strider and Chronic. And that's going to make them the champions here of this season. So, Grillmasters, they're dominant throughout the whole season. They're dominant through the playoffs. And they are dominant through the grand finals. What a display from this team.
Yeah, and having that level of dominance is absolutely amazing, absolutely stupendous, and, there's just nothing else to really be said. Full props to them. They earned this, through absolute hard work, dedication, and, just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, 100% as well. It's going to be fantastic. But of course, with us having those grand finals, it's not over quite yet. We are going to be able to get an interview, and it's going to be from Ice and Will, but we're going to make sure that gets all set up first. So we're going to take a quick break. So stick around for a couple minutes. We'll have a nice winners interview, and I'm sure it'll be a fantastic time. Stay tuned.
Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours.
Welcome back, everybody, once again, and we are here at the end result of the matchup between Grillmasters and EU, and Grillmasters secure their EU PC Championship here in Season 12 with a 4-1 victory. And of course, a nice little victory celebration for this team. But we're going to have a couple of these amazing players here with us today. Ice and Will, both members of Grillmasters. First of all, congratulations here on your Grand Finals victory.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely stupendous what you guys were able to do with a great regular season as well as a phenomenal bracket. And, you know, I guess the first question is sort of the adaptability. You guys pulled out a bunch of different comps throughout this whole thing. Was there ever really a plan, or just y'all realized how flexible you were?
You know the owl, like when Overwatch League accounts they tweet and they have like, oh, what hero did you get, you know? When you like stop the image. We just stopped the image and then we chose like each hero like that. And then we like kept rolling every map.
Okay.
And we were just running random heroes, you know?
Okay.
Very true.
Yeah, that's definitely fair enough. So, you know, we kind of talk about that like adaptation because, you know, we go through Lijiang Tower. It ends up not particularly being a close map, but then we head over to Blizzard World. It looks like you guys are going to have a successful defense. You stop them just for a second, but unfortunately that ball comp kind of brings you down. It's a very wild, chaotic comp. So how do you deal with a composition like that where it's, you know, it's not very keen to what you're trying to run? There's a lot of people in a lot of different places. It's a lot of chaos. So what was kind of like the development like and kind of handling that, so to speak? I know it's a very similar question to what we've already, you know, kind of gone through, but I imagine there's something else in the process when it comes to, you know, the changing up momentum in a match like this.
I mean, it's just really map specific as well. On a map like Lijiang, where you don't have that many flanks that you need to cover, you can just play for objective and then win by that. And on Blizzard World, it's such an open map with so many flanks, and then defending is fine on it. But once you have to go attack, it's really tough because they're just gonna have like a billion angles on you, and you have to like somehow force car and try to get like any picks. So it's like really map dependent. You saw us also like on Gibraltar play Rhine, right? And it didn't really work out as well as it did on Lijiang because it's just much harder on that map, obviously. So you just had to like make an emergency swap on Gib, so we don't lose that map.
Alrighty, I mean, yeah, having those kind of adaptations in the back pocket is super nice. Something I always like to ask teams, simply because maybe we don't see everything that could happen behind the scenes in scrims or anything like that. Who do y'all feel was sort of the best contribution to this team throughout the whole tournament? You know, who was the player that really deserves that praise the most?
I have to give it to Will. He's the evil mastermind behind all the plans and all the compositions. He's calling all the rotations and the 5 plans.
Which is our manager. Because our manager did all the bookings, which made us able to play.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's either Will or manager, probably.
I mean, you also have people like Exodial, who's kind of the dark horse. Who just kills people, you know? He's really good on Sojourn. And, you know, other hit scans, they might, you know, go very far. They might take Adderall, they might take a lot of caffeine and stuff like that to play hit scan, you know? Then you have people like Exodial, who just eats tapas and go like siesta, and then he pops off. So I respect this guy a lot.
Hey, you definitely love to see that. A lot of credit being given around, and it was a fantastic performance. But of course, before we start to wrap things up here, I do want to give you this little platform real quick. If there's anybody you want to thank, whether it's your teammates, if you got a couple of pets at home, you got your parents, whoever you want to thank, this is a great opportunity to do so.
I would like to thank Goose.
I'd like to thank Jombe.
And who is Goose and Yambe? I'm curious. I do not know off the top of my
You
head.
go first, Ice.
It's just a friend.
Goose
Very
made me.
very compelling backstory.
Yeah, there's not. It's just a friend. Like, there's not a big story behind it.
Goose made me. He literally created me as a person. So I have to give credit to Goose. He's always been my number one friend. Always been uplifting. He played with me since I was a very bad player.
And that's me, but it's fine.
I mean, well, that is phenomenal to shout those people out. And then, I guess, unless y'all have anything further to say, I guess you can go celebrate that lovely, lovely Grand Finals championship you just walked away with. Although, I think some of y'all are just heading to bed.
Yeah, I'm just gonna celebrate some lovely sleep.
Nah, I'm unemployed. I'm just
Yeah, I'm just, I go to school, so.
yeah. Good buddy.
All right, well, you guys make sure to enjoy your night. Enjoy your night. Get some rest. Go celebrate tomorrow while you got the time. So, congratulations one more time on your Grand Finals victory.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
What a couple of swell, clearly wordsmiths. They clearly had all of their thoughts together with them. But yeah, I guess, bedtime beckons.
It happens to the best of us. We all have to sleep eventually, especially when we're kind of in EU right now, where it is definitely getting late over there right now. But one thing we will do before we get out of here is, of course, we are going to look at the bracket overall throughout the playoffs we've had here before us, the journey that all these teams have gone through, how far they managed to get, and of course, Grillmasters taking that grand finals win. But of course, YaEU still going to come away with that second place trophy at the same time. At the end of the day, you feel bad about not winning the grand finals, but second place, absolutely nothing to be ashamed of in that regard.
Yeah, no, second place is nothing. I mean, look at all of the amazing teams that were in this bracket. But yeah, Grillmasters, interestingly enough, if you take a look at it, everybody that was in the top 5 to 6 was somebody that Grillmasters faced or Grillmasters themselves. So you can't even say they had an easy run of the bracket. They truly faced the best teams for the bracket play, and they just came away dominant every single time.
Yeah, it's just such a heck of a display from a group like this, and it's incredible. But that does kind of like round out the grand finals, and that runs out the season for the EU PC division. But it's not over quite yet. I know it's Monday night. Everyone thinks, oh, it's done and over with, but no, it's not quite done and over with, because we're going to have a couple more matches over the course of the next 3 days, and the closest of them all is going to be tonight. We have the NAPC Open Grand Finals, Bonsai Buddies and YSL. We're going to be going head-to-head at 8 p.m. EST, so I want to make sure you come around for that, and it'll be a fantastic time. Should be a really close bout between these two teams, but we really have nothing more for you here today. So, of course, Megalast, thank you very much for being a fantastic co-caster here today. Of course, thanks to Hippie over on the production side, and all of our lovely, lovely observers that were by side. And I'll make sure I have the list here, because I forgot to call them out last time, and I feel kind of bad. So, running through the list, we have Poofa, we have Lottie, Mira, Kha'Zix, and Little. So, thanks to everybody involved for helping put on a fantastic show. It makes you come around, as we have some more talented people bringing you that NAPC finals tonight. So have yourselves a good one, and we'll see you on later tonight.
Power.